Happy New Year and welcome to Empowerment Radio. Now, I hope you had a wonderful holiday season and don't feel too bad about the extra pounds that somehow appeared on your body miraculously. I also hope that you are looking forward to 2018 with vigor, pep, zest, positivity, and that you have intentions that are not something that feels like a should or have to or a must or I better, but intentions that really have passion behind it. Intentions that make you feel excited about focusing on them. Intentions that also help you to see this coming year as an opportunity to discover more about yourself, more about your qualities, capabilities, more about your desires, more about how you can make a difference, and also how you can outgrow your limitations. Now, for me, 2017 was not necessarily the best year. It was challenging in several ways, and it was also rich because I really learned from things that happened unexpectedly, that stretched me, and that taught me lessons about things that I haven't really focused on so much. And one of the lessons was that I don't really give up on anything or anyone I really care about. Some of you may remember that almost a year ago, my horse, Friedemann, had an accident. Well, she threw me off and I got a sore butt, and she unfortunately hurt both of her hind legs. And so it was a long journey and it wasn't really clear if she would ever get well again. And so we consulted several doctors and, everyone has a different opinion, but in the end, it was really just up to us to do our best to help her to heal again. So I spent every day almost 2 hours per day to treat her in all different ways, to help her to stay limber, to get her strength back, to treat her with clay bandages and so on. And I'm happy to say that she is almost ready to get ridden again. So it really taught me that consistency pays off, especially if this consistency is driven by that commitment and that also compassion for that what you really care about. Now, someone told me once that they believe, and this was a person who was working with horses, that their subconscious mind and a horse has something in common. The subconscious mind of this person, or our subconscious mind in general, and horses. And he explained to me that both the subconscious mind and horses are very sensitive, very intuitive, and both respond to what we consciously think and are ultimately eager to learn and to please. So when it comes to changing and healing our mind, when it comes to growing and expanding our mind, I think one of the important things to focus on is consistency and this commitment to not give up. And the topic we're going to talk about today is something that I think a lot of people are not only struggling with, but a lot of people are about to give up because whatever there is, they feel it doesn't get any better. And what I'm talking about is fear and anxiety. So today we're going to talk about how to create a year without anxiety, without fear. How to make 2018 the year where you are not run by these emotions, but where you are feeling more empowered, more at ease, and ultimately more trusting. Now, there are many reasons that people feel, especially this year, more anxious. There was this Chapman University survey. They do this pretty much every year. And the survey showed that usually there's only one topic the majority of Americans are afraid of. But this time, there were 5 topics that more than 50% of Americans said they're really concerned about. And those topics were government corruption, pollution of our environment and drinking water, which was a first, healthcare, and not having enough money for the future. And of course, there were other concerns like North Korea and terrorists, but they were less than 50%. So all of those that were asked, 50% or more were concerned about that. And I think when you maybe ask yourself or look around, do you find that there is more fear and anxiety in your environment? Do you feel more anxious and afraid? Now, the intention that I have set for myself this year, and it's kind of a, really renewed intention because I have this pretty much every year, but I feel there is a different energy about it, that I want to help as many people as possible globally to have a better relationship with their emotions, and especially with those emotions that are challenging, like fear and anxiety, to help people to understand that these emotions and all the other emotions are ultimately what life is about. We kind of look at emotions almost like as nuisance, as some kind of a annoying background noise, and don't realize that our emotions determine whether our experience in life is pleasurable, enjoyable, fulfilling, or completely miserable. We need to learn to decipher the messages of our emotions, to understand where they are coming from, and also to respond to them and guide them so that we do have this ultimate power of choosing our reality, of choosing our experience in life, and not feeling the victim of our own feelings. And so, with that in mind, today, I would like you just to change your mind a little bit about fear and anxiety. Look at it from a different place. Understand that fear and anxiety is not that what you used to believe it was, but just seeing it more as an extension of your mind that is there for a reason and that may have not just gotten the response, the time, the care, and maybe the compassion it needed to eventually go away and for you to overcome it. Now, how is your fear and anxiety level right now? If you would gauge yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you say on average your anxiety level is? And how has fear and anxiety held you back in the past and maybe right now? Maybe you feel like, this fear and anxiety makes you just not really take any risks, like, simple risk, looking for a different job, or going into a different relationship, or maybe just wearing some colorful clothing. Now, how would you like to feel instead? How would you like to feel without fear and anxiety? What would that feeling be like? Would it be ease? Would it be feeling at peace? Would it feel like confidence? Would it feel more like more joy? And how often have you thought about this? Because a lot of people that are struggling with fear and anxiety are not really looking beyond that wall. I have been struggling with anxiety for many years, and all I could see was the anxiety and the patterns that I used to cope with this anxiety. But I didn't really look beyond it. I didn't ask myself, so what do I want to feel instead? What is really the me without anxiety? What kind of person would I be? And how would that make a difference in my life? Now, a lot of people that feel fear and anxiety have the fear of speaking up, have the fear of showing up as their true, authentic self. They may see that there is a problem. They may see that maybe in their relationships, in their workplace, maybe in their family of origin, something is not right. Something feels maybe even abusive. But they don't say anything because they feel, well, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to disturb the peace. I don't want to deal with the consequences. Or my voice really doesn't matter, doesn't really make a difference. Now, and this is what this Me Too movement has shown to all of us as a great example where many women and also men that were harassed, abused, taken advantage of were exactly paralyzed by that fear. They didn't allow themselves to speak up because they felt that their future would be destroyed. They felt that their voice wouldn't be heard. They felt they only would be judged and ridiculed. And so they stayed quiet. But now that this movement really has started, you can see that each voice matters. And you can see that where the fear is no longer a barrier, there is power to make a difference. There is a power to make a difference not only for themselves, but also for all the people that in the future potentially could have been abused, potentially could have been hurt. And now those people are ultimately protected and helped by the voice of the people that had to go through this pain. So don't underestimate your voice. Don't underestimate yourself as not someone who can make a difference. And don't let the fear and the anxiety stop you from showing up at this time, especially at this challenging time in our lives, as the agent of change you can be, as that person that can make a difference. Now, this sounds like fear and anxiety are the brakes, or as I said, the wall. But isn't fear and anxiety more than that? And is there something that may make that wall dissolve without having to either hit the head against it, use your sledgehammer, or dig yourself under it? What can we do to make fear and anxiety no longer an issue, no longer a barrier for ourselves? When we come back, we can talk about that. And if you have any questions, please call 888-418-6890. Phone lines are open, 888-418-6890. Or you just use the chat box on Transformation Talk Radio and ask your question or make a comment. All right, we will be right back after the break with more. Welcome back to Empowerment Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Friedemann, and I just want to mention my website because a lot of people are asking afterwards, so how do we find you? How can we get more help, especially when it comes to those prevailing issues like fear and anxiety, insecurity, and so on? So if you want to find out more about the work I'm offering, go to our website, thefearandanxietysolution.com. Again, that's thefearandanxietysolution.com. You can find a lot of material that can already help you to gain a deeper understanding about your emotions. There are tools available. There are free guided meditations. There is an ebook you can download. There are a ton of videos that link to the YouTube channel that is Dr. Friedemann Schaub or Dr. Schaub, DRSEHAUB at YouTube. And of course, you can also schedule a free consultation to find out more about the individual sessions I'm offering. And currently, there is also a sale on the video seminar. It's a 6-part series on releasing and overcoming fear and anxiety that right now is offered as a very special price and discount until only the coming Mondays. So if there's something that is of interest for you, check it out. Again, that's thefearandanxietysolution.com. Now, Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the mind that created it. We all have heard that. So let's change a little bit our mind about fear and anxiety by starting with this understanding that we actually created in the first place. A lot of my clients struggle with that feeling that fear and anxiety are done to them. It's almost like they're waking up in the morning and looking over their shoulders and wondering, well, is it there? Does it come? When will it attack me? And there is this powerless feeling with that because, of course, when you don't really trust your own emotions and you feel like that they can at any time hurt you and torture you, well, you don't really feel very comfortable in your own skin. And that is one of the greatest challenges when it comes to fear and anxiety, this wondering, when will it come up again? So I know sometimes it sounds kind of difficult to take responsibility, but it is true. We do create our fear and anxiety ourselves. In fact, it's our mind, especially that deeper part of our mind, the subconscious mind, that does that. Why? Well, let's look closer. Let's face our fears. And facing our fears doesn't mean that we necessarily have to do all the things that we are afraid of, even though it makes us really sweaty and panicky. Facing our fears in that way, just jumping out of airplanes or deciding to speak in front of strangers just because that's what you're afraid of, often those kind of facing your fears creates the opposite. It actually creates more fear. It creates maybe even more regular panic attacks. So that's not the facing the fears that I'm talking about. What I mean is like looking at what the fear is really all about. Looking at fear and anxiety not as the problem, the disorder, the weakness, but maybe something that has a deeper message, something that may have a deeper meaning. And for this, let me give you an example. An example that's more like an analogy. So fear and anxiety are not separate from your mind. Fear and anxiety are an extension of your mind. In some ways, it's exactly what happens with the body. Let's say your knee would hurt all of a sudden. Walk the stairs and ow, that really is painful. Well, you don't necessarily blame the stairs of being steep or the low car seat for the pain when you're climbing out of your vehicle. You don't even blame your knee necessarily for the discomfort. You try to figure out what is really going on. Now, at first, you may take some painkillers, but that may not necessarily always help. So if the pain continues, well, you don't cut your leg off or decide just to hobble along on the other leg. You actually go to the doctor and try to figure out, so what causes this pain in the first place? Well, the pain is not necessarily what is the problem, right? The pain is not what is wrong. The body is not wrong for creating the pain. The pain is also not mean or trying to hurt you or torture you. It's simply trying to tell you something. And what it's trying to tell you is pay attention. Something is not right. So the good doctor may do some x-rays or some ultrasound and tells you, well, you have arthritis in your joints. Why? Well, most likely you have 30 pounds extra weight that you're carrying, and every pound on your knee is 4 times the weight. So you could say you have 120 pounds too much on your knees. And the doctor necessarily will advise you to lose some weight. So the approach is 3-pronged when it comes to your knee. You take some anti-inflammatories to really address that inflammation. Then you will lose some weight, and then you strengthen your muscles. Well, what does this have to do with fear and anxiety, you may wonder? Well, in some ways, the approach is very similar. So rather than making yourself feel like there is something wrong with you because you have fear and anxiety, or you're looking at your circumstances and you're feeling like, well, globally or locally, all is screwed up anyhow, so we are just powerless victims here. Rather than blaming your mind, for having those feelings, you may want to start just assuming that there is a reason for those feelings to be there, and that you may want to figure out what that reason could be. Where do those emotions come from? Why is it? I'm not talking about this random once in a while fear and anxiety that you have when you do bungee jumping. I'm talking about the chronic fear and anxiety that when you wake up and you already feel some cold sweat, or those ongoing situations that every time you're in it creates some kind of fear. That fear of anxiety that really affects your life, that holds you back. What can you do about it? What's the message about it? Now, there are usually two reasons why we have fear and anxiety. One is, and they're not exclusive, they usually go hand in hand. One is that there are past patterns, fear and anxiety patterns that have been developed during your childhood. And there are certain root causes that make this fear and anxiety pattern almost like your go-to default setting of your mind that gets easily triggered and makes you easily feel just as little and powerless as you did when you were 5, 10, or 15 years old. And those root causes are something, they can be limiting beliefs, they can be unresolved traumas, it can be just a general sense of struggle within yourself and inner conflict. Those root causes are shaping how you see yourself, how you see the world, and they need to be addressed. That's kind of like the inflammation in your knee. Those root causes need to be healed. And that's what my work with clients, the video seminar, and also the book, The Fear and Anxiety Solution, is focusing on. Now, for this, I am offering this Saturday at 9 o'clock a.m. Pacific time a special free video webinar, which will explain to you more about the root causes, tools, and processes on how you can start overcoming your anxiety right now. So if you're interested in this free video webinar, all you need to do is just send an email at info@thefearandanxietysolution.com. Again, that's info@thefearandanxietysolution.com. And we will send you the link to how to go on to Zoom and watch the video webinar live. You can ask questions. You will not be seen there, so if you're afraid of showing up in the video, don't worry about it. It's just an audio for you, but you will see me, and I will talk a little bit more about the deeper reasons for having fear and anxiety. Now, the second reason for having fear and anxiety is that we do freak ourselves out every day in different ways. Now, how? That is something we will talk about after the break. So stay tuned. We will be right back.